I'm Cindy Armstrong, and welcome to Discover C4C, where we discover art, lifelong learning, and fun. We talk with artists about exhibits in the C4C gallery, and we explore ideas and workshops that will hopefully ignite your creative spirit. Hi, everyone. Today we're talking with Muriel Fahrion, and she is the creator of Strawberry Shortcake, Care Bears, and the Get Along Gang. And she is going to do a meet and greet and character design workshop here at the C4C on October 2nd. So we're really excited just to get to know you today and hear more about your journey.
And I'm excited. This is such a fabulous opportunity because I'm so much part of Tulsa now that I call it Smallsa. Because once you know some artists, you know more artists and more creative people. I want to just reach out the best way I know how, and having this opportunity is fabulous.
Yes, and so this workshop will be free and open to the public, and all the supplies are provided, so all people have to do is show up and they can meet you, get a selfie, and then draw with you.
So I had a practice, and that is I gave art workshops at Decapolis, which was small groups, but I'm sure it's going to be very similar. That group, last one, I started with a kitchen dance, as I call it, to get the group warmed up to the idea that I'm going to show them some secrets of how to draw cute and how to draw in a humorous style. And that started, so I'm quite personable. I look at everybody there as their own universe. Mm-hmm. And they have their own particular special way to draw and to communicate. And I love seeing the differences as well.
Yeah, for any of you listeners, hashtag kitchen dance on Instagram. Muriel does some fabulous kitchen dances.
So kitchen dances, and there are some that are like, oh, well, that wasn't great. But my kitchen dances has to do with interpretation. I'm an illustrator, so I illustrate through art, but I'm also illustrating through dance. And if you dance it, then that becomes also part of your movement, and being able to put some of the movement back into your drawing. Everything you experience in life then can move into your art.
Interesting. Yeah. So I might need to pinch myself because I never thought I'd be sitting across from the creator of Strawberry Shortcake and Care Bears, which I spent so much time playing with, me and my sister, when we were little. I personally loved Nighttime Bear the most.
Aww.
Yeah. I think it's a boy. I don't know.
Well, I think it's neutral and it meant to be, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yours was a boy.
I think so. For some reason. And as you were saying, you're a Tulsan now, but tell us about your early career in Cleveland and when you started at the American Greetings.
Well, let's go back to the root of it all, which is when I was tiny, right? I'm not very tall now, but I was tinier. And at 4 is when I remember starting to draw and loving it to draw. So from the age of 4 on, I was going to be an artist. There was no doubt in my mind that's where I was going to go. So I took every free class I could, and then whatever you did in school, and I drew and constructed and cut things out and all that kind of stuff. So I went from that, and I had art in high school. It was not a good teacher, but it doesn't matter. If you're internally going to be an artist, you're just going to be an artist.
Right.
But I got a scholarship to art school in Cleveland, Cooper School of Art, and it wasn't a big class. It's not a huge school, but I graduated top of my class, one of the top 5, I think, which made American Greetings, huge corporation. If people aren't familiar, American Greetings is like the size of Hallmark. They're very similar in size. they offered jobs to the top students. And so I was one of them. It was kind of an open door. You can come in and join American Greetings. And I was in art training. And then he decided to dispense with art training, but I was still in it. So they had people come down, look for artists to fit into certain studios. And I ended up fitting into humorous and juvenile art.
Nice.
It wasn't something that other people were like, oh, wow, I want to be in humorous and juvenile art. But, and a lot of them wanted to be studio artists. I thought, they're paying me to draw cute and funny things. Yes, please. That's what I loved. And I did it for a while and had my quota of cards I did, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a line. There is your holiday lines, but greeting cards don't want to lose territory between the holidays. And so they do a thing called promotional. Promotional are new ideas, which we all love to do. So every department can come up with their own ideas, and it's spontaneous, and sometimes it's guided, and in my case with Strawberry Shortcake, it was guided. I had an art director that said, let's look, ragdolls are in, strawberries, daisies, pink, red, those are the things. And so that's what he gave me, that information, plus the numbers of not characters, but of greeting cards that did well with that kind of a theme,
So
or
like
one of
market
those themes.
research
It was kind of a
type
market
thing.
research. So I got that, and then I came up with Strawberry Shortcake. But she wasn't Strawberry Shortcake to start with. She had no name, really. She was just a rag doll with a big hat, And I immediately gave her a cat. Immediately.
Little Custard.
Little Custard. So he happened real quickly into that. She was just going to be greeting cards. And you're going to have to excuse me if I don't exactly remember the number of greeting cards. I think it was a dozen greeting cards, different designs. And so I had to come up with a dozen different designs using that. And then Huckleberry Pie then appeared on the scene because they wanted me to do stuff for Valentine's Day. So you needed a boy, right? So there came Huckleberry Pie and then Blueberry Muffin. So that was the first group that were on cards. At that time, Star Wars, as everyone knows, was a big hoopla, right, for boys' toys, and it was a licensing. And the guy that made it a licensing, Bernie Loomis, who headed up General Mills, who owned Kenner and Fisher-Price and a whole cereal and food and all this big amount of things. And so he came looking for the next girl property that would be as big as Star Wars, right? Wow.
No pressure.
No. Came to our creative vice president, Tom Wilson of Ziggy fame.
Yes.
And so came to Tom. He was our creative vice president. He went with his portfolio. He had 5 things in his portfolio. Number 1 being Ziggy, and they said, not for girls. It has to be better other than that. So Strawberry Shortcake, according to Tom Wilson's story, and Tom Wilson was really good at stories, was number 5. He pulled out the portfolio, and Bernie Loomis says, that's it? It's going to be dolls, it's going to be clothing, it's going to be accessories, it's going to be an animation, it's going to be an amusement park. So he was thrilled. It never became an amusement park, but everything else came true. And also didn't become a piñata, even though they wanted it to be.
Well, I remember when I was little, I had the trash can. My sister had the sleeping bag. My sister had the sheets, and we had the lunchbox. Of course, we had all the dolls and the strawberry house, and lots of merchandise.
Right. So I was, people were like, oh, you did Strawberry Shortcake. Yes, and 32 characters.
Right.
There was 32. I counted them one time because at a certain juncture, they realized that I couldn't do everything like the the packaging, the accessories, my own photocopying, and all the characters, and start the next line, which was Care Bears. They figure I needed some help, right? Finally. And so we got one person in, Janet Jones, who is still a very special friend of mine, and we worked hand in hand, and then Cindy. And we got a few people, I think we had 2 additional people on Strawberry Shortcake in the conceptual phase. And I also wanted people to realize that I did not do the finished art. I came up with the color combination, etc. A number of very talented people did the finished art, but I take the claim to being the first concept person on the program.
Right. That's understandable. I mean, when things come out like that, it really, after the first concept, it takes a team. Like you were saying, you needed more people to help you with all of that work.
Right. So when we had to do a presentation to Bernie Loomis on how we saw it. At that point, and I love this part of the story. So at that point, they said we're going to need somebody to do a doll. Our whole budget was $1,000. Not much, right? And we had a writer, fabulous writer. She's gone now, but she was very good, and an art director and all that sort of stuff. So we said, we need somebody to do a doll. And I said, oh, my sister can do it, right? So my sister didn't have a lot to do. She had 6 kids at the time, drowning in children and whatever. And I said, Susan can do it. And Susan did it. She did the first rag doll, and that came out to Knickerbocker. So she did the doll. They sold the idea to Knickerbocker. But it was a program there was a buy-in, which was very interesting. So the licensees had to pay money to even be in this group of an unknown property, right? But it was Bernie Loomis and Star Wars, and he says it's going to work. And so there was a buy-in. But Knickerbocker produced the first product, actually, out of that line.
Do you know what year that was?
Yes, so 79.
Okay.
So we're talking 40 years. 40 years,
Yeah.
Folks.
Well, I have a Strawberry Shortcake baby doll here, and she says
81?
1982.
82, that makes sense.
Yeah, she was made in Hong Kong. Copyright American Greetings.
So the baby doll. So I like doing the little characters because I don't really use much reference. So I take the situations, etc., of things I did when I was young. And my family, I'm one of 7. So in my play and movement and all that kind of stuff. So they were fun, and I did that in situations, and I love doing situations. But they said, we need a baby doll. And I said, yes, please, because I love drawing babies, and I have since I was tiny. I love drawing babies. So I was thrilled. They wanted a baby doll, and the baby doll that's out there I got to do after I did, oh gosh, if that's 82, okay, then I probably was 81. So I probably had done at least 20, they would do in 6s. So obviously whatever the 6s, like 36, or whatever, 24 characters already. When I got her as, like, now do this. I was happy. I was so happy to do her. She's adorable.
And, you press on her tummy and she breathes out strawberry
I
smells.
know. So I work with the doll designers at Kenner. And I'd go down and work with them, and we work in the drawings, and then they would show me a prototype, and we'd make small changes here and there. But they're a genius group at Kenner. They were really wonderful people that I work with. And the scent came from, I am not sure where that brainstorm came through. But I know that I think Kenner owns that. I think that copyright, but I could be wrong with that. So it could be a combination of thinking. I could even think Tom Wilson may have been part of that whole thing. But it wasn't necessarily my idea for that. So I don't get credit, but I love it. When they went to the factory, and they started making. They had the scent too strong, and people were fainting on the floor.
Oh
Okay?
no.
So they immediately made changes in the formula to tone it down a little bit. But I have had my fans that are in their 40s say, mine still smells like strawberries.
Well, let me see if mine smells. No, it doesn't smell like strawberries.
Smells like a certain plastic, you remember,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So after all of this, and they're coming out with all of these different things, were you surprised by how it just took off, or did you feel?
Well,
How
I
did you
was
feel?
really almost too busy to be surprised. And it wasn't until the first year out, where it was 1 year, or maybe she was 2 years old at that point. I'd have to read the stuff because I don't remember. I do have some material on it. And they had a big party, okay? I think they called it Strawberry Shortcake's First Million or something. And they had a big party, New York City, Tavern on the Green. There was a beautiful light snow falling. There was a 20-foot, actually, dessert shortcake in the middle of the room. And Marvin Hamlish was playing the piano. At that point, I thought, oh, my Lord, look at this. This is something. And I was kind of surrounded by an entourage of people, not because they're wanting to meet me, but because the company wanted to keep me and not have somebody else. This is my feeling. I don't know this for
Yeah.
sure, but not want another company to take me from them.
Right, right. Who can blame them? Tell me a little bit about Care Bears.
So Care Bears, we had at those characters were Cleveland, which was a subsidiary of American Greetings. We were in a different building. It was a smaller group, etc. And they felt that going out on creative brainstorms was a good idea. And it was a good idea. And the reason being is that you get away from what you have to do every day and, manage and marketing, all that, and you get to just go and blue sky it, right? So you would write up what you thought would be a good brainstorm off campus. And there was a teddy bear convention. And that sounded good to me. So I had probably like 5 members in my group. If they picked your idea, then you became the group leader. There was no like, oh, you've been here longer. None of that. If they liked your idea, you became the leader. So I led, I think, about 5 people out there. We went to the teddy bear convention. We talked about it and came back. And the boss at that time, Ralph, said, okay, so what's the big idea? And I said, teddy bears. I said, because they've been there since Teddy Roosevelt, right? And it's forever. I mean, it just goes on forever, and there's no reason why it wouldn't sell again. But you have to make them special. And it was my boss, Ralph, at that point, who said, you know what? Let's take the best-selling sentiments from our greeting card, and let's put them on the bellies.
Oh,
Right?
I love it.
Yeah, and so I said, okay,
Aw.
that's what we're going to do. So my job at that point is like, do a teddy bear that no one has seen yet. That is not like anybody else. Well, that becomes difficult because we're talking about 100 years, right?
Right.
So you really have to,
Make them not brown.
yeah, right, and just make them like their face has got to be shaped different, their feet, and then you have a writer writing a backstory on it. And I wasn't the only artist asked to come up with thinking on it.
Right.
But mine was chosen. I mean, I think they didn't necessarily want to choose me because I was still working on Shortcake. They go, oh, okay, here we go. But I was chosen to do that. I did the first 8. I did also Cloud Car and some of the accessories on this, and worked with the writer on some blue skying of story behind it. But after that, that was handed off to a very talented artist, Elaine Kucherik, and she is very good, and she really developed the look that everybody knows. But I certainly was part of that story.
That's awesome. I love knowing the story of how the American Greetings, they wanted to use themes,
Right.
popular themes for the
Yeah.
teddy bears on their Belly. The
Yeah.
Care Bear stare.
Yeah.
I loved those cartoons for sure. As I said earlier, we're going to have a workshop on October 2nd where people can come and meet you, and we're going to do a drawing workshop, character design workshop. What do you have planned for that evening? What do you have in store for us?
I want to cover how many. I forget how long that workshop is.
It's about an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
Well, in that time, I think how to draw cute would be my focus. I had much success with that to people who people who don't draw at all.
Like me.
They never draw. I mean, to people that are sophisticated artists come to that class. And ages from the youngest was like 3 years old, and then there was people in their 50s coming. And mostly they were adult. There was more adult women than anything. And I thought, oh, I was expecting kids, right, in the class. So here's the beauty of that is that there's some really simple, proportions, lines, etc. that really, if you see it and I talk about it, and you go, oh yes, I can see that, and then they would follow my guideline, but then I said, I want to see you in this. I don't want to see me in this. I want to see you take this and make it yours. And it's turned out wonderful. One woman, so things really get to my heart when that happens. One little girl was autistic. Oh, she's a young woman, was autistic, red hair, adorable. Her drawings were great. I didn't know immediately that she was autistic, but I said, oh, you're the real Strawberry Shortcake, which she now carries with her. That she tells everyone that, well, she doesn't talk a lot, but I'm the real Strawberry Shortcake. That was endearing. And then there was one woman says, I'm a pen pal of a lot of people, and they send me art and drawings, and I have nothing to send back to them. Now I do, right?
Yeah.
Also, I can pull out when I see people that I think have it, really have it, but haven't, I don't know, pinned themselves down that they're going to be an artist or whatever. I will encourage that. And I have definitely been encouraging them, please look into the Center of Creativity. It's here. And it's wonderfully manned and wonderful, I don't know, equipment, and it's just great.
Yeah, many people don't realize everything we have here.
I know.
And everything we have here is free and open to the public. We have rotating art exhibits in the gallery, and then we have guest artists like you who come in and do workshops. And yeah, I think it's pretty special.
Oh,
but,
when
I
they
work
say,
here.
"Oh, I'll have to move someplace and go to this school and that school," I go, "No."
Yeah,
I
we
said-
have the visual arts program.
I said
That's what
it's
I was
here.
thinking of. Yes.
It's here, and yes, if you want to go on and get a master's or whatever, this is where you start. You start here, and you're going to be so prepared to go to your next step. So I want to help. I want to be the voice that just wake up. So much talent here in Tulsa. Let's get it together. Let's understand what we have here and where we can go.
So I have one other question. What's something that you like to do that ignites your creativity?
Wow. I'd like to say that it doesn't take much. Okay? It's just one. It just kind of starts with a little seed of something, and then grows from there. So, somebody, not the best person in the world, decided to message me on Facebook, and said, "Hey, cupcake," and I thought, and I said, "I'm not your cupcake." So that person went away pretty quickly. But then from that point, I drew cupcake. And it was like, and I like it. And I drew it. Oftentimes, it's at night, right before I go to bed, when everything has cleared out. And I go, okay, I got to draw a cupcake now. It's my job. It's my job. Those ideas come in my head. So there's no specific things, but I'm open I think leaving myself open to that. And if I, go back to my kitchen dancing, which I really started of late, do the kitchen dancing, and it's interpretive dancing, and I video it because then I could see me doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned something from that. I've learned a lot from that in a very short time. And it's movement. It's movement and it's expression. And now when I go around the house, I live by myself with my 2 dogs. I go around the house and I always use my hand when I'm talking to myself and do a little dance. But everything in life can be something that spurs creativity.
Great. Well, thank you for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you October 2nd.
Yes, I look forward to seeing all kinds of people show up. I really would love to have the people that are following me right now, a lot of them, to show up. And then people who don't know about me. Those 3 people here in Tulsa.
Right. Thanks for listening. If today's podcast sparked your creativity, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.